The songwriter in question is a one-time partner of mine, the man who's provided more words for more singers than any other 5 men in the business today. His words have a funny habit of staying put once they get into your head. Remember this?
Dearly beloved, how clearly I see. Somewhere in heaven you were fashioned for me. Angel eyes, you. Angel voices led me to you.
And nobody's ever forgotten this.
My mama done told me when I was in knee pants. My mama done told me, son,
a woman will sweet talk and she'll give you the big eye. But when that sweet talking's done,
a woman's a two-faced, a worrisome thing who'll leave you to sing the blues in the night.
Now, this was his first big hit.
Ah, lazy bone, sleeping in the sun. How you expect to get your day's work done? I never get my day's work done. No. Yes, just basking in that noonday sun.
Formidable lyrics. And the man who wrote them, Johnny Mercer. Born in Savannah, Georgia, November 18th, 1909.
I don't think my first ambitions had anything to do with writing lyrics at all. When I left high school, it was acting that first attracted me. I used to have a theory in those days that almost anybody could act. You just walked on stage and played yourself. The surprising thing is, for me, that it worked for a while, at least well enough for me to get a few jobs on the stage. Of course, I was writing lyrics, too, for as far back as I could remember, and singing also. The other kids at high school were pretty encouraging, but still, it was as an actor that I first became a wage earner. Then I entered a singing talent competition sponsored by the band leader Paul Whiteman, and I won. The prize included a year's engagement with the band.
Every gal strutting with her bow through the streets covered white with snow. Happy smiles everywhere you go. It's Christmas night in Harlem.
All the folks feeling mighty good in that uptown neighborhood. Here and now be it understood, it's Christmas night in Harlem.
Everyone is gonna sit up until after 3.
Everyone will be all lit up like a Christmas tree.
Come on now, every Jane and Joe.
Reach your sweet knees to mistletoe
with a kiss and a hidey-ho.
Christmas night in Harlem.
Man, what did Santa Claus leave in your stocking?
Well, let me see. There's an orange, there's a Santa steamer, and man, look at that fly trombone. Ain't it pretty?
Yeah, I bet you it sounds pretty, too. Let me hear you toot that for me one time.
Mr. Mercer, I'm glad to be back in this festivity.
Yes, you said it, Mr. T.
Christmas night in Harlem.
When it's Christmas night in Harlem. Man, you cool as a pistol.
That was Johnny Mercer there, singing one of his own early songs as a duet with the great trombonist Jack Teagarden. But Mercer didn't stay a band singer for long. As a matter of fact, he achieved the pipe dream of every frustrated actor who ever drew dole money. He was sent for by Hollywood.
Not as an actor, but as a lyric writer. And my first real hit was a satire on the cowboy vogue of the time called I'm an Old Cowhand from the Rio Grande. Bing Crosby was making a cowboy film at the time. He heard the song, he liked it, and included it in a picture called Rhythm on the Range.
I'm an old cowhand from the Rio Grande.
but my legs ain't bowed, and my cheeks ain't tan. I'm a cowboy who never saw a cow, never roped a steer 'cause I don't know how. Sure ain't a fixin' to start in now. Oh, yippee-yi-yo-ki-yay, yippee-yi-yo-ki. I'm an old cowhand and I come down from the Rio Grande. And I learned to ride, ride, ride before I learned to stand. I'm a riding fool who is up to date. I know every trail in the Lone Star State, 'cause I ride the range in the Ford V8. Oh, yippee-yi-yo-ki-yay, yippee-yi-yo-ki-yay. I'm a pioneer who began from scratch. I don't bat an eye in a shooting match. They don't call me Elmer, they call me Satch. Yippee-yi-yo-ki-yay, yippee-yi-yo-ki-yay. Yippee-yi-yo-ki-yay. Whoa!
After that hit, Mercer's career moved like greased lightning. And the most interesting thing about it is the way in which he's worked with very nearly every one of the successful composers and given hits to every one of them. By the time Johnny and I worked together, he must have had 20 partners at least, very many of them much older than he was, and in the early days, much better established.
I was so crazy about songs so early, I knew them all. And I didn't do it on purpose. I just knew these songs. I knew verses and second choruses. And when I met these gentlemen out in Hollywood, we'd go to a place like a little nightclub or a saloon where we'd all sit around. And I'd sing songs that they'd forgotten they wrote. And I'd sing the verses and the choruses. And I didn't put them on. I didn't go home and study those songs. I knew them. So when I do these songs, I think they were really impressed about my love for the craft of songwriting. That's what impressed them. And I think that's how I got to write with a lot of them.
Well, exactly who is Mercer thinking of? Well, could be Richard Whiting. He was nearly 20 years older than Johnny, but as collaborators, they were pure contemporaries.
You're just too marvelous for words, like glorious, glamorous, and that old standby amorous. It's all too wonderful. I'll never find the words that say enough, tell enough. I mean, they just aren't swell enough. You're much too much, and just too very, very to ever be in Webster's dictionary. And so I'm borrowing a love song from the bird to tell you that you're marvelous, too marvelous.
Just a shade younger than Richard Whiting, but still a lot senior to Mercer, was Harry Warren. Once again, the years melted away.
Oh, jeebus, creepers, where'd you get those creepers? Jeebus, creepers, where'd you get those eyes? Oh, gosh, all get up, had to get so lit up. Gosh, all get up, had to get that size. Oh, golly gee, when you turn the heaters on, woe is me. Got to put my cheetahs on. A jeebus, creepers, where'd you get those peepers? Oh, those weepers, had to get my eyes. Oh, where'd you get those eyes? Oh, jeep, jeep, jeep.
One of Johnny Mercer's most famous older partners was the great Jerome Kern. He was literally old enough to be Johnny's father. The occasion of Mercer's professional marriage to Jerome Kern was a Fred Astaire Rita Hayworth movie called You Were Never Lovelier. The year is 1941, and Mercer matches his professional wits against Kern's for the first time.
I was absolutely awestruck when I walked in his house. In the first few conferences we had in his study, he played me a few tunes, He was terribly shy, and there was nothing to be so full of awe about, because he was awfully nice, and of course, very paternal and well-bred. Couldn't have been nicer. But he played me a few tunes that I wish I could have written. One was Long Ago and Far Away. But he did play me this song, I'm Old-Fashioned, and I had an idea for it, and I brought it in, and he played it over, and he got to the word, stay old-fashioned, on that note. He said, that's wonderful, and he got up and he hugged me. And he called, he said, Eva, Eva. And he went and he called his wife downstairs. She was upstairs in the sewing room or something. She ran downstairs, and he kissed me on the cheek, and he says, wait till you hear this lyric. Well, of course, you know, it makes you feel like $1 million. It's just a fair lyric, but he was pleased.
I'm old-fashioned. I love the moonlight. I love the old-fashioned thing. The sound of rain upon a window pane. The starry song that April sings. This year's fancies are passing fancies, but sighing sighs, holding hands, these my heart understands. I'm old-fashioned. I don't mind it. That's how I want to be. As long as you agree to stay old-fashioned with me. I'm old-fashioned, but I don't mind it. That's how I want to be. As long as you agree to stay old-fashioned in every way. Old-fashioned, please stay old-fashioned with me.
The Kern-Mercer partnership was a father-son relationship, but a year or two earlier, the positions had been reversed when Mercer worked with someone a shade less well-established than he was.
There was a new young fellow who was playing piano in professional rooms at the music publishers called Jimmy Van Heusen. And he hadn't had many songs. And Harry Warren's brother, Charlie Warren, was the music man at the firm. He was the song plugger. And he touted Jimmy very highly. He said, you got to write some songs with this kid. He's great. So Buddy Morris and I were going into business together, a firm called Mercer Morris. And Jimmy and I wrote 3 songs. Make With the Kisses was one, Blue Rain was another, and I Thought About You was the third. I can remember the afternoon we wrote it. And he played me the melody. I didn't have any idea, but I had to go to Chicago that night. I think I was on the Benny Goodman program. And I got to thinking about it on the train. I was awake, I couldn't sleep. So I thought of this tune that was running through my mind, and that's when I wrote the song. On the train, really, going to Chicago, and it was nothing really exceptional about it, except that Jimmy had a great tune. And of course, Jimmy is very famous now.
I took a trip on a train and I thought about you. I passed a shadowy lane and I thought about you. 2 or 3 cars parked under the stars, a winding stream. Moon shining down on some little town, and with each beam, the same old dream. And every stop that we made, oh, I thought about you. And when I I pulled down the shades and I really felt blue. I peeked through the crack, looked at the track, the one going back to you. And what did I do? I thought about you. Stars, winding stream, moon shining down on some little town, with each beam the same old dream. And I looked at that track, one going back to you. And what did I do? I thought about you.
Another much older man that Mercer worked with was one Victor Scherzinger, who died in 1941, the year of his collaborations with Mercer.
He really was a movie director who played fiddle or played a little piano for fun. Same way with Edmund Goulding. He wrote 2 songs. Love Your Magic Spell Is Everywhere and Mamselle. But he really was a movie director. That was his main job.
Well, one of the melodies that Scherzinger flung at Mercer when the two of them were working on a movie called The Fleet's Inn happened to hit the spot immediately.
I wrote it very fast, and I didn't have to rewrite it at all. 10 minutes. Half an hour at the most. I think I wrote 3 songs that weekend.
Remember you, you're the one who made my dreams come true. A few kisses ago.
For 10 minutes' work, but it may not be Mercer's fastest song ever. That honor might belong to something which came much later in his career, several Oscars later, in the Henry Mancini partnership. As a matter of fact, it was another Mercer song that won the Academy Award.
Gene Lees, who's a reporter, did an article about me in a hi-fi magazine. He noticed that song was written with only 2 sentences. Well, that's true. The days of wine and roses, laugh and run away like a child at play, through a meadowland toward a closing door, a door marked nevermore that wasn't there before. And then the next half of the song is another sentence. But I didn't do it on purpose. I mean, it wasn't like a crossword puzzle or anything. I just followed where the melody went. As a matter of fact, I don't feel too responsible about this song, although it's one of my very favorites, because Ernest Dowson, some years ago, wrote the poem called They Are Not Long, The Days of Wine and Roses. And that's where the picture title came from, and the television play and everything else. So I don't take too much credit for that. You know, when I wrote that song, I didn't want to write it because I said, it sounds like a French operetta, something like The War of the Roses or Sigmund Romberg or Hammerstein and Kern. And then you go in, you pay your money, and you see The Days of Wine and Roses, and you see two kids getting stoned out of their heads. And it's pretty depressing.
Mercer worked with, we haven't mentioned, is Harold Arlen, and his score with Mercer is consistently high. It was with Arlen that Mercer wrote Blues in the Night, and committed to paper that memorable phrase that the world keeps misusing to this day as the title of the song, My Mama Done Told Me. And Arlen and Mercer also turned out a couple of very different items that have to be included in any review of the career of either men. In Mercer's narrative, by the way, the Ginger he refers to is not Ginger Rogers, but Ginger Mercer, the dancer that Johnny is married to.
We were working for Paramount Pictures at the time, and we had to have a big song in the show. As a matter of fact, we had several songs in that particular movie. It was a service show, and it had, I think it was called Star Spangled Rhythm. But I remember working with Harold at his house in Beverly Hills, and we wrote it in one afternoon. We might have taken more than 1 or 2 days, but when we finished it, he drove me home, and I said, you got to come in and play this song for Ginger. So we sang. Ginger was the first one to hear that old Black Magic, and Ginger always says, I knew they had something good because they come in and they stand around like little boys, and then they say, don't you want to hear what we wrote today? And when they say that, you know they got a big song.
That old black magic has me in its spell. That old black magic that you weave so well. Those icy fingers up and down my spine. The same old witchcraft when your eyes meet mine. The same old tingle that I feel inside. And then that elevator and down I go. Round and round I go. Like a leaf that's caught in a tide. I should stay away, but what can I do? I hear your name, and I'm aflame with such a burning desire that only your kiss can put out the fire. For you're the lover I have waited for. You're the mate that fate had me created for. And every time your lips meet mine, darling, down and down I go. Round and round I go. In a spin, love is that spin that I'm in, under that old black magic called love. Under that old black magic called love. Under that old black magic called
So far, we've heard Mercer songs that are flip and clever, and songs that are sad and sentimental. But during his collaboration with Harold Arlen, Mercer wrote one lyric that doesn't quite fit into any known category of lyric writing. It's really a kind of short story in song form, and it must rank as one of the most sophisticated examples of putting words to music in the modern era. It was written for a picture called The Sky's the Limit, forgotten today, except for one song. Here's Johnny setting the scene.
He played a scene in a bar where he's very disappointed about losing a girl that he's desperately in love with. And I guess it was quite important in the movie and very memorable, too. But he gets quite angry, and he does a dance on a bar. And he kicks all the glasses around as he sings a song. Very effective. But there are also other effective ways of doing this song, and one of the best I ever saw was Peter Lynn Hayes. He used to do an act, and he'd come into the saloon, and he was just stoned out of his head. And he's had a crumpled hat on his head, and he started talking to the bartender. He started singing a song. He's singing, it's 2:45, and no one in the place, and he was just acting it up. It was just wonderful. And then he stopped, and he started to talk to the bartender. He says, Fat Harry, he says, you know something? He says, my wife, she says, she took all the furniture, backed up the van, took the furniture, gave me custody of the mother-in-law. And he goes on through this real funny bit, and everything is a laugh. And then at the very end, he just starts to sing, so that's how it goes, and I know you're getting anxious to close. And he starts to walk off, and as he walks off, he cries. Really seriously, and I want to tell you, it's the most moving version one of the most I ever saw of any song.
It's 2:45. There's no one in the place except you and me. So set 'em up, Joe. I got a little story I think you should know. We're drinking, my friend, to the end of a brief episode. make it one for my baby and one more for the road. I got the routine, put another nickel in the machine. Feeling so bad, can't you make the music easy and sad? I could tell you a lot, but you've gotta be true to your code. Just make it one for my baby and one more for the road. You'd never know it, but buddy, I'm a kind of poet, and I got a lot of things I'd like to say. And when I'm gloomy, won't you listen to me till it's talked away? Well, that's how it goes. And Joe, I know you're getting anxious to close. And thanks for the cheer. I hope you didn't mind my bend in your ear. But this torch that I found, it's gotta be drowned, or it soon might explode. So make it one for my baby and one more for the road. The long, it's so long. The long, very long.
That was Frank Sinatra singing probably one of the greatest saloon songs of all time, even though I did write it. One for my baby and one more for the road. I don't know a drunk who hasn't been through that and who doesn't love that song. So all you drunks out there, hang on.
And while we're hanging on, we ought to take a look at least two other aspects of Johnny Mercer's work we haven't looked at yet. From time to time, he headed for Broadway. Not very often, but always with good results. My own personal favorite happens to be St. Louis Woman, but probably the best known and certainly the most colorful Mercer Broadway show was the one he wrote that was based on the most famous comic strip cartoon in the American press. The composer Mercer was working with was Gene DePaul.
Now, we wrote a lot of songs in this show. Most of the songs were business songs, like It's a Typical Day in Dog Patch, USA, or The Country's in the Very Best of Hands, or Don't That Take the Rag Off in the Bush. And those songs. And, of course, we had a couple of semi-ballads, Love in a Home, Namely You. But everybody's favorite, including mine, from that score, is a song that was sung by Mary and Sam, played admirably by Stubby K. I think the lyrics are pretty much, well, they pretty much explain themselves.
When we fought the Yankees and annihilation was near, who
was there to lead the charge that took us safe to the rear? Why, it was Jubilation T. Corn Pone. Oh, toot your own horn, Pone. Jubilation T. Corn Pone, a man who knew no fear.
Tell us what it
When we almost had him, but the issue still was in doubt. Who suggested the retreat that turned it into a rout? Why, it was
Jubilation T. Corn Pone.
Correct. Old tattered and torn Pone. Jubilation T. Corn Pone. He kept us riding out. History says that General Grant was pretty good with a jug. Who drank drink for drink with him and wound up under the rug? Why, it was Jubilation T. Corn Pone. Passed out until morn Pone. Jubilation T. Corn Pone. With whispers in his mouth. Hearing that a northern spy had come to town for the night, who gained entrance to her room and lost a glorious fight. Why, it was Jubilation T. Corn Pone. Old weary and worn Pone. Jubilation T. Corn Pone. He fought all through the night. There at Appomattox, Lee and Grant were present, of course, as Lee swept a tear away, who swept the back of his horse. Why, it was Jubilation T. Corn Pone. Jubilation T. Corn Pone, a picture of remorse. Why, it was Jubilation T. Corn Pone. Jubilation T. Corn Pone, he really saved the day.
Johnny Mercer, lyric writing flower of the Deep South, sending up the legends of the Deep South with a typically original turn of the phrase. The show, of course, was Little Abner. Now, everything we've heard of Johnny Mercer so far has been essentially as a lyricist, in harness with composers writing the tune. But there have been interludes in John's career when he's done the music too, and from the results you'd never suspect he hadn't been doing it all his life. In the mid-1950s, commissioned to work on a movie starring Astaire and Leslie Caron in a musical version of a story called Daddy Longlegs, Mercer drifted into the situation of composer, to his own words.
I woke up one night with an idea for a song called Something's Gotta Give. Now, that's another popular expression that everybody used. Anyway, I had an idea for this song, Something's Gotta Give, and I got up and I wrote a kind of a sketch of it, like the bones, but not the full structure. I think the melody was a little different. And I had it, and I was fooling around with it, working on it. And then I got a job to do a picture for Fred Astaire.
When an irresistible force such as you meets an old immovable object like me, you can bet as sure as you live, something's gotta give, something's gotta give, something's gotta give. When an irrepressible smile such as yours warms an old implacable heart such as mine, don't say no, because I insist. Somewhere, somehow, someone's gonna be kissed. So I'm gone. Who knows what the fates have in store? Neath their vast, mysterious sky, I'll try hard, ignoring those lips I adore. But how long can anyone try? Fight, 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 fight it with all of our might. spangled night, we'll find out as sure as we live. Something's gotta give, something's gotta give, something's gotta give.
Not very long after I had this dream, I kind of woke up from a deep sleep, and I said, well, this song would be perfect for the picture. And that's the kind of song that Fred likes. You know, it sounds sophisticated. It's got that offbeat rhythm and everything. But I had another ballad called I Never Knew, I think it was called. Now, there had been several songs called I Never Knew, but mine was a nice song. So we went up to play the score, because I wrote the whole score for this picture. I wrote the music and the words, which I seldom do. And we went up one afternoon, the piano player and I, to play the songs for Fred. And we played, a couple of dance songs, and then I played the other ballad, and his face I could see. He was really disappointed. So I said, oh, by the way, I said, I've got another song that you might like better than that ballad. Another ballad. He said, have you? And I said, yeah. So then I started to sing Something's Gotta Give, and a big smile came on his face, and before I finished the chorus, he was up on his feet dancing. And he said, oh, he said, that's wonderful. And I said, why? He said, well, don't you see? He said, I'm 40 or 50 years old, and I'm in love with a girl who's about 18 or 20, and it makes the whole thing believable. He says, when an old, immovable object like me meets a, whatever the words are, I've forgotten them right now. So he was thrilled with it, and of course I was thrilled that he was thrilled.
So I'm gone. Who knows what the fates have in store? Neath their vast, mysterious sky, I'll try hard, ignoring those lips I adore. But how long can anyone try? Fight, 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 fight it with all of our might. Chances are some heavenly star-spangled night we'll find out as sure as we live. Something's gotta give, something's gotta give, something's gotta give.
That's quite a song for a part-time melodist like Johnny Mercer to have written. But in fact, ever since he started out, John had had ideas about melody writing.
Well, when you write songs and you want to be a melody writer, but you write with great melody writers all the time, you're always trying to find some pretty song. It's easy to write a rhythm song, kind of like Something's Gotta Give or Old Cowhand or something like that, but a ballad is tough. And I was working on this song, Dream. I had a few chords. I love the sequence in the chords. Dee, dum, bum. I fool around the piano, and I don't play. So it's a real effort for me just to get a chord. And when I get 2 or 3 in a row, well, that's like a composition. So I had this thing going, and I got these chords, and I was just in the middle of finishing the melody, and Paul Weston came out to the house. So I said, by the way, I got a tune that might, be pretty good for the theme song. He said, what is it? And I played it. He said, oh, that's wonderful. I love that. So he took it down, and he wrote the lead sheet for me, and he loved the chord sequences. So then I finished the lyric. But, I discovered later on, after I'd written it, and I play it a lot, that you can play it right along with whispering. It's kind of whispering sideways. Dream when you're feeling blue. Dream, that's the thing to do. Just
think you must have noticed, this far into a show about Johnny Mercer, that no matter what the year is, his voice doesn't seem to age very much. And that goes for his singing voice, too.
Talk to me, baby. Tell me lies. Tell me lies as sweet as apple pie. Whisper, you tremble with a wild desire to light the fire in my eyes. Say that we're helpless in the hands of fate. Exaggerate if you must. Just talk to me, baby, soft and low. Then, if you decide it's really so, swear you'll be mine forever. Otherwise, just talk to me and tell me lies, 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 big, fat lies. Make up lies.
There are so many famous Johnny Mercer songs that we would need all day to squeeze them in. We could, for instance, have played this one.
I'm gonna love you like nobody's loved you. Come rain or come shine. High as a mountain, deep as a river. Come rain or come shine.
Or we might have asked Tony Bennett to render this one.
I want to be around to pick up the pieces when somebody breaks your heart. Somebody twice as smart as I.
We haven't so much as mentioned the song that won Johnny an Oscar back in the 1940s.
In the cool, cool, cool of the evening, tell 'em I'll be there. In the cool, cool, cool of the evening, better save a chair.
When the party's getting a glow on and singing fills the air.
If there's gas in my hack and my laundry is back,
If there's room for one more and you need me.
why sure. If you need a new face or a tenor or bass, if I can climb out of bed and put a head on my head, well, you can tell 'em we'll be there.
And we also left out another little item he knocked up with the old boy Victor Scherzinger.
Tangerine, she is all they claim, with her eyes of night and lips as bright as flames. Tangerine, when she dances by, senoritas stare and all the fellas sigh. And I've seen toasts to tangerine raised in every bar across the Argentine. Yes, she has them all on the run, but her heart belongs to just one. Her heart belongs to tangerine. I mean to tell you that she has them all on the run, but her heart belongs to just one. Her heart belongs to tangerine.
We might have pointed out that these are Mercer's words.
Is the face in the misty light, footsteps that you hear down the hall, the laugh that floats on a summer night, you can never quite recall.
And as a matter of fact, these are Mercer's words, too.
The falling leaves drift by the window. The autumn leaves of red and gold. I see your lips, the summer kisses, the sunburned hands I used to hold.
But one Mercer song we can't very well leave out, and it's the one that won him yet another Oscar, back in the early 1960s. The writing of that song had some far-reaching repercussions for the surveyors of Mercer's hometown.
When I first arrived on the scene in Savannah, the place was called Back River. The city council and the marine engineers changed the address to Moon River as an acknowledgement of one of its citizens had gone and done. When I was a kid in Savannah, I can honestly say I had no intention of altering the name of the place.
Mercer is here referring, of course, to one of several songs by him that people keep singing over and over because of one word or phrase that's distinctive in a Mercer-esque sort of way. My mama done told me. That's typical. As for the example in Moon River, my huckleberry friend, Johnny explains it as follows. Matter of fact, as always.
When I grew up in the South, by a river, there were always wild bushes, blackberries, strawberries, little wild strawberries, wild cherry trees, and huckleberries down south. And that, coupled with the fact, the name Huckleberry Finn, and the fact that Mark Twain had written about the Mississippi, and that this girl in the play, Breakfast at Tiffany's, was from around that neck of the woods down there in southwest United States, it just seemed to fit to me.